Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, viewers. You're watching the Policy Times Unleashing India Global Web Summit series. Policy Times is one of such unique media house from India which is advocating, promoting policy advocacy and developmental journalism. So we have only one objective that during our lifetime, we want to see India one of the most prosperous nations. When we talk about making a nation prosperous and developed, it needs certain fundamental corrections and fundamental reorientation. And I think this session is one of such. Now, when we say that, the international relations is also one of such parameters which help a nation to be prosperous and developed. Because international relations in today's globalized era plays a very different role, and the economic mutual relation between countries and regions is also the center stage of bilateral and multilateral relationship. So today we will talk about on a very important subject or topic or theme with two real experts from Europe. India and European Union both are very old civilizations. We both have our own uniqueness in itself. So first we are old civilization. The second is India is hotbed for entrepreneurship with a large pool of talented people. European Union, on the other hand, is one of the mature democracies of the world and also a matured society, matured economy. So it has a lot of value system and technology and a lot of other things to offer to India. On the other hand, India as a young talented pool also has a lot to learn from Europe and also then encash the experience that Europe offers and technology that Europe offers, or maybe the finance or money or the financial development that Europe has done has or can offer. So between India and Europe, we have a huge list of activities that we can explore. Dr. P. Shekhar, who is the chairman of this show, also chairman of Unleashing India Global and Global Smart Cities panel, author, entrepreneur, also policy influencer, policy maker. He will chair this show, and we have with us two most important, I think, speakers from Europe talking about how enhanced role for Indo EU business corridor for global reincarnation can be. So, with this, I actually want to hear from our experts today, and I want to request Dr. P. Shekhar to take over the session from here.
Thank you, Akram. Technically, today is the 63rd session. We started things in a small way around May end when COVID was at its peak, saying that, yes, when COVID is doing such a venom on the world, we had to do something to come out of it. We had to do something to give confidence to the people. We had to do something to ensure that we all work together to take out this common enemy, so to say. It's a global enemy. And fortunately for us, things are now, of course, in India, it is absolutely on the low level. Europe is still to come. Even today, UK has done a third level of, whatever, isolation, etc., etc. But this COVID being whatever it is, we call it World War III, we call it something which has destroyed economy. We got this thing, and there are people who say what good COVID has done. There are things which we cannot deny, that the fact that we all can sit like this in respective places, there are 5 people in 4 different locations, few different countries, and we all can do it. We could have done even at the time technologically, but we never did it. If anything like this, either one of us has to, two of us have traveled to the other country, and then only we'll be together. Very rarely we had this type of conferences, even though technically this was possible even 10, 15 years back. So COVID being whatever it is, today's topic is Indo European business corridor. So we have extremely two good experts. I will introduce the experts at the end of a small presentation, which I will give now. Is the admin right, please?
Yes, sir. Now we can.
Yeah. So we are talking of enhanced role for Indo-US business corridor for global reincarnation. Okay, every word has been coined to convey a proper meaning, and here we are talking of first European Union. If you see European Union at a glance, it has got a one or two other slides. I will go in detail. Other slides I will just give overview. It has got 445 million people, and it has got 22 million square kilometers. These two figures are very important. Literacy rate is 99.13%. Urban population is 330 million. And the GDP is 13 trillion dollars. So now we come to various countries. There are 27 countries technically, and which is contributing. Almost all the countries are whatever we call in today's case developed. There are a few which may not be as much developed, but they are all on a different grade. And when you come to India, now India has got 1.4 billion people, almost three times the total population, whereas area is 3 million square kilometers, almost 1/7 is the area. At the same time, because of India's population, India is like putting 206 countries put together is India's population. Literacy rate is 74%, long way to go to 99%. And the positive portion is India has got 600 million youth. Youth means below 25 years. So this gives under to a growing and highly intelligent, highly accommodative people who would like to learn wherever they are, people who would like to contribute wherever they are. They are all going to play a huge role. They are all going to be the huge market for in this collaboration, and they would also have a very big, role is a very minor word. They are going to have a significant way in which they will tune the world. Now, COVID being whatever it is, COVID has been a challenge. And in this challenge, for whatever may be the analysis, India has sort of proved its mettle. Indian numbers with all these big figures are far lower. And India should have been the most affected cases because Wuhan, from where this came, India had so many Indians there and they all came back to India. But India could, bring down to a level, if you see some of the percentages, India's recovery is 96%, and people say it is 98%. And recovery in Europe is far lower. I don't want to compare number by number. But yes, India has, not only in this, India has also got a technical challenge of India is producing vaccines of very high grade, which are ready to be taken up. Now, economy doesn't depend only on vaccine. Economy depends on so many other parameters. And economy has to work from all angles. The relationship has to work from all angles, including economy. Let us put it that way. Between India and Europe, when we are talking of relationship, it has to be on a level playing field. It is not like I give, you take. Yes, India and Europe had a very big, not so glorious relationship in the past. As I said in my previous this also, it was a predator-prey relationship where predator was Europe. Most of the European countries came to sort of grab India, but we developed good relationship. There is no anger or no negativity because of that. With all those countries, we have extremely good relations now. Nobody is even thinking of what has happened about 200, 300 years back, where the relationship was fairly different. Whereas today the relationship is one of stable relation. Now, in terms of government to government relationship, just next three slides I'll rush through. It started right from 1962 when some established diplomatic relations, and to 2020. Okay, those other slides I'm not going in detail. So that the relationship is getting better from all angles, but still a very long way to go. But quite much significant ground is achieved, significant confidence is achieved, and people to people relationship are of a degree which is unbelievably good, and it is a win-win-win relationship. Here in India need not feel it is doing any favor to Europe, and Europe need not feel that it is doing. It is something where something which is missing here can be done by the other party. The other party can do something which is missing on the other side. And all those things we will slightly cover. So India, with a population of 1.4 billion, 50% of the population is below 25 years. This is something which is a dream for the world. And 65% is below the age of even 35 today, because when we say even a 50-year-old person feels he's an young boy, so even 35 years is a very young age, and 65% of 1.4 billion is below the age of 35, and it will become one of the largest, third largest consumer market, and growing by the hour. And the development is extremely good. It is democratic, fully democratic, with all the democracy problems are there, which is there in any democratic country. But it is fully democratic, which has got even, we could see from the US election that India is more democratic than US, the way things are going on there. But there is no, again, one-upmanship. Yes, Indian democracy has its own flaws, but it is coming out. Now, India and Europe, in terms of trade parameters, is India is the 10th largest trading partner for Europe. That we would like to jump to number one by whatever efforts we are trying to take. And it is having some of the numbers which are put can be seen that, there are 6,000 European companies present in India. They are also providing 1.7 million jobs in India. And even there is Indian companies have invested $50 billion in Europe, which is something which is very interesting for, everyone. Even when we saw it, we were re-verifying the figure was right. Yes, we found it was right that even 50 billion Indian companies have put it, and even though the money put in by India is very, very high, it is 88. Okay. So that being the case, we have to now see where does this word secured governance comes in picture. Now, secured governance is something, which is where we say the hidden potential for the growth has to be taken in, and value and valuation has to be taken in. Suppose we say investment should be done by European companies, then the first question asked is, who will guarantee, who will give ensure that things go well, and how to do what to. Secured governance is the one which gives a complete foolproof system for the monetary, technological, technical, manpower, everything to grow forward. So here we call it, the word corridor itself comes from the techno-economic corridor, which we have taken up in this Indo-European business corridor. In this techno-economic corridor, there is a huge valuation which comes when two things are connected even by a small road. The moment the road is announced anywhere in the world, the values around the road go sky high. The moment it goes sky high, the road itself becomes a small portion of the value which it is supposed to have created. So anybody putting the money in has got 100% sure that the return will come, so that they don't have to think of guarantees or not. Yes, which will be done from various, it's not that bank will tell you and take from this one. There are business houses which will take care of the valuation benefit, and they will guarantee the bank in terms of its returns. So you remove the word road and put any school, any college, all of them produce value of various degrees, and that value capture is something which is done. There is a value capture mechanism which is different from secured governance value capture. Here the valuation takes care of the value capture. It is not the whatever is the cost of it. So because of this, there is a huge value proposition for Indo-Europe relationship, and India is now a sleeping tiger, trying to get into a different mold, because it is necessary for India's survival. India produces 20 million more Indians every year. You can imagine the need and necessity for India to take care of the techno-economic growth. So India has got barren lands. India has got 17% barren lands. And we are in secured governance. We said, let this barren lands be used for development. So there's no question of farmer displacement or whatever. And 2% of the barren lands, if they are taken, it is enough for next 100 years of development for India. So those are strategies which are evolved. Now, when we say that it should be $1 trillion, we have to understand that today, the way the numbers are, $1 trillion is a very big number. Yes, we are nowhere near $1 trillion, but it is something which is achievable, because we all know that country which we have marked here is something which has spoiled its own name from all angles. From all angles, they are worse than a predator in terms of the approach which they have got, and they offer a huge market which they have captured, and which much of the Europe do not want to deal with them, and they want India to come as a big replacement. At the same time, the need is there when there is a 440 billion people to be supported, and that to a high-paying public, which we have to do. And India has got a great role in ensuring that produce the type of quality, the type of this, and the way our group of my two esteemed speakers, we have written an article which I will show it at the end of this thing. has written is that Indians themselves can set up these factories in Europe and with a lower cost, with the optimum cost brought by the Indian labor. Again, as I said, all the slides I will not go into detail because we are very keen to hear our two speakers. So that this is again, India's FDI flow also has been captured. India's flow in various sectors has been captured. These are all available in the article and in the thing, and these are all data taken from the published documentation. So this we are making it like a strategic roadmap for another few years only. Not whatever we say cannot happen overnight, and but has to happen, has to start happening immediately, and will start happening in another few months and years time. So this is again a very important thing that for any effective this thing we should have effective multilateralism, because there are various countries, there are 27 countries there, and India itself has got 29 states in India. So there has to be a linkage between the various parts of the in India and the various countries there, even though there is a uniform management of European Union. So again, we are having cultural, social, and we have got all the countries in Europe are fortunately democratic. We are one of the highest democratic country, which is India, and knowledge sharing between the two is going to play a very, very big role, because today India is also deep into development, but Europe is far, far ahead of India in terms of some of the high technology development. And there again, Indian people will have a huge role to play in terms of subsidizing the cost of development and also ensuring that it is easily available to the whole world. Because India and Europe, when they come together, their market is not only India and Europe, it is also the whole world. And it is for infrastructure, autos, building, textile, and so on and so forth. And while talking of all this thing, we have just captured the shortfall in manpower. In infrastructure, there are 103 million people are required in terms of totality. In auto and component, 35 million. Building construction, 33 million. These are all unchallenged figures published from various angles, not anything which is imagined by anybody. So there is a need for people. The skill development itself becomes a big place which we have to do. And employability as also is changing in India, and we need not go too much into depth on some of those aspects. So now whatever we are talking, coming to the end of my presentation, is a long-term sustainable, self-sustainable thing we are talking. And here we are talking of a highly ambitious target of $1 trillion Indo-Europe business corridor. And fortunately, an article got published where Lina, one of the speakers today, she's the associate publisher. And we are saying in this how much new employment will be created between the two countries. Of course, it will be more in India because India will form the base, and how much trade can be there between the two, and so on and so forth. And much of these things, from my point of view, I bring in the form of books on various aspects. I've written more than 100 odd books, and written one for Indo-US $100 billion. Now Indo-Europe is going to be $1 trillion. And these books are of various grades to publish what we are trying to say. Now, coming to introduce our two esteemed guests, Shishosmas Vasily, sir, is a global green environmental philanthropic and highly a humanitarian person who looks at the global growth as his motto of life. And he has done a lot of big work, and he has set up his own group of companies called Vasily Group of Companies. This is for infrastructure development. He is not only into development in terms of environment, he is also arranging good quality, highly attractive funding for the causes which are there, high value, and at terms which are very, very good, very, very competitive, and extremely good for the development of whatever country we are talking. Second is Lina Deros. She is global philosophy, and she is an European, but where Indians will be very, very happy to know that she is also a master in Sanskrit, one of the old Indian languages, and 99% of the Indians do not know Sanskrit, and she knows it. And much of the India's philosophy is in Sanskrit. and she is also an European boutique born investor. And more than anything, she's an associate publisher for European New Europe magazine. Okay, with that, I will, yeah. So I would like to first invite Thomas Vasily. He likes to be called as Thomas Vasily, which is more easy for all of us to pronounce and say. And I would like him to start his talk. Then we'll go to Lina. Then we'll come back to him and with her, and then we close at the end.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sekhar, for that wonderful presentation and for your gracious introduction. You're absolutely correct when you started your introduction regarding COVID, how it's actually affected the world economy, not just in India, but worldwide. And we've seen many businesses that have become obsolete in respect to a marketplace that no longer exists. And also many companies finding themselves out of business after so many decades of hard work. And India is not exclusive to that. It has affected the world everywhere. Now, it is uncertain the road that the economic world is literally traveling on at present, whether India or Europe. Because of its uncertainty, we are here having conversations as to try and establish some direction as to which way we should be traveling upon this road. We've all come together, obviously, to create the Indo-European roadmap, which we believe will attract Indian companies as well as European companies to come together and to unite in force and in economic power as well to create new markets. Now, the Vasily Group's aim here is, and services that it's actually offering, is to be able to help establish such unionship in promoting them to obviously enter into Europe, in the Indian market to enter into Europe, and to obviously establish European markets. Now, this obviously requires funding. It will require funding in the best of circumstances. But given the fact that we are in COVID, it is more so required now than ever before. So we have developed funding structures to help Indian and European companies to be able to come together, to be able to find solutions for their funding platforms and be able to structure a new venture. This we can assist on. Now, we've set up a structure already here. And if I may just mention just a couple of names here, which is Mr. Chirag Sini, Mr. Dilip Abani, and Mr. Anush Salaka, basically, who represent us in India, as well as a few other names, if we can ask you to then publish these names as well, where people can actually contact them, and they can obviously express the funding structures that are available to authorities within India and private companies as well, that we can assist in the development of India under the golden bird, if you like, strategy of India, but also for those companies that wish to enter into the EU markets, starting off with Greece and Cyprus, to set up in partnership or to set up base there and produce products there in line with European standards to enter into the European market as well. Now, we've already seen a union between India and Greece with both governments. We would also like to extend that into the economic sector, into the business sectors, to invite Indian companies to join hands with Greek and Cypriot companies and put together some union which will attract a new market. Well, let me rephrase it. Not attract a new market, but to attract a redevelopment market, because we are reinventing the market here. We're not continuing on a market, because to continue on an existing market, given the present circumstances, we will all be looking at doom, I think, again. That's not because of the inabilities of the participants but rather the circumstances and climate and environment we live in today, reference to COVID. So we do need to restructure how we do business, not just the union of two businesses, but how we do business from here on. A restructure, a brand new roadmap. And yes, that does require funding. This is where we come in to advise in respect to supplying that funding, structuring funding, and to also create a roadmap for them to travel on, which they can feel absolutely assured and comfortable in achieving their mutual goals. That's what our aim is, and that's what we hope to achieve.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, coming to, we'll come back to you in another few minutes' time. Lina has got a huge role to play because, you know, the way this particular aspect is structured is that Greek becomes a very good starting point for the whole Europe market. Once you are in Greece, you are in Europe. And Greek, unfortunately, is also going through a bad economic portion. So what we all decided was to take Greece as a starting point to enter Europe, because all the aspects can be done more competitively and more easily, and it can then the output can be corporate can take care of the whole European market. So in that, Lina, she is in Greece, and of course her publication is in Brussels, so she is hopping between the two places, and that means Brussels is almost the capital of EU. So she's in the capital of EU as well as on the most, in terms of economic development, the best portion is Greece. And another aspect is Greece and India always had an external relation even thousands of years back. We have a cultural tie-up, we have so many things common between the two. And the commonality is so much so that even though Lina has not visited India, she knows even Sanskrit well, as I told in the beginning of the introduction. So that type of a linkage is there between the two. So I would like Lina to see in what is her thoughts on what is the way she thinks things can go forward, and what are the extra precautions we have to take, and what are the opportunities which can be taken forward. Lina, madam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shekhar. It's a great pleasure to be here and an honor. And I'm very keen in supporting this movement that started with your initiative to continue on enhancing the relationship between India and Greece, and from there on create this corridor that we are discussing that will bring closer India to EU through Greece, as we said, and Cyprus, because in a way we are closer geographically to the country. And on the other side, as you said, due to this tradition, common tradition, and things that we have from many years back, and a kind of familiarity, I will say, to the tradition that we have, it is easy to communicate and then from there on create in the private sector, and being blessed by the governments in the partnerships that we can do between Indian and Greek companies. We have discussed with Sir Tom Vasili, and what we thought is that if Indian companies come into Greece, that, as you know, has suffered a long pre-COVID crisis that lasted 10 years, and that has created problems to the whole economy. And although things started getting a little better with the COVID story, and things, that, as we said, are global, not local, we have a further problem with the economy, but also, as you both said before, new opportunities, because we are entering, as my partner in New Europe says, a new normal, which we are going to face with the post-COVID conditions. There are things that are coming into the habits of business, and there are businesses that will develop further than what they were before. But of course, we cannot forget, and we shouldn't forget, um, the basics in an economy. For example, at this moment, everybody is focusing on technology and telecom, which is, of course, a new thing, and it gives a way of facilitation to the communication. And it is very important that we have it in those days. Can you imagine how isolated the world would have been if we had COVID and we didn't have the technology that we have today? Nevertheless, we cannot forget that there are some sectors that are very important to human being, like agriculture. We cannot forget that agriculture supports both the food sector and supports also the health sector, because also many of the things that are coming in supporting the health of citizens, human beings, how you want to call them, come from agriculture. So we need to just put some emphasis on that. And the opportunity here is that you need to use the new technology in the service of the main sectors that we need. So taking new technology and using it into the agricultural sector, you can create farmers, businessmen, which is a tendency that we are trying to do, and through European Union the last almost 20 years. And this way, the people that have the production, the first level of production, as we call it, can also produce their own developed product and be able to just sell the product being ready. And that can happen in both countries. Now, there are certain sectors that we have discussed with Sir Vasily, and uh, there are some ideas that he has that I would like him to go further and talk about the development of that give an advantage due to tradition that we have in the Greek economy. And there are certain things also that I can say on that. So I would like to leave room for him to discuss and introduce to us the things that we have discussed for specific sectors in this partnership that we can have with Indian companies. One thing that I want to add is that we are working on this corridor. We are creating a team like a kind of association or a business council, or how you want to call it, between Indian and Greek and Cypriot companies, that this will also support the idea of partnerships between the two countries, people of the two countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, coming back to Sir Vasily. Now, as we go forward, the expectations are pretty high. And I'm talking to European companies, Indian companies, and various aspects. In terms of funding, of course, not that there's any commitment. What would be your advice to both the companies in terms of the products, the sector, the type of funding, and the type of expectations which people can have? How to ensure that the entrepreneur gains, a funder gains, and overall the system gains? Our objective is that it has to be a win-win-win situation. It is no use you give the money and somebody takes and goes away. It is no use you take the return and go and everybody else is failing. It is no use. It has to be all the three. The India and Europe has to gain, and the funder, whosoever it is, including you as the main, has to gain, and overall the entrepreneur who is at the core of the whole thing, trying to do things, which will be an Indian entrepreneur and the European entrepreneur. Maybe a lead will be more from the Indian entrepreneur, because we are, even as the way we are all planning, it has to uh, come from India, because today Europe is saturated from various angles. Europe's stomach is full. India's stomach is not full. Okay, has got a long way to go. And with, like I told you, facts and figures, of course, Vasily is a master of Indian facts. He knows more Indian facts than many of us, which is very good to know. So India, with so much, per day in India, 75,000 new Indians are born per day. Okay, that's the type of figures we are into. which means, 20 years from now, from today's people, there has to be 25,000 jobs has to be created. So from job creation point of view, from the point of view of this thing, at the same time, from a European point of view, you have a market which is out. So that, people would like to hear from you, in what are the way the opportunities can be there and what mistakes they should not make and what is the way they should go forward and make it a successful association with this particular corridor service.
Thank you, Dr. Sek, for that. And thank you, Rena, for that quite informative response, basically. And one thing I want to pick up on what you said was that Greece has suffered a great deal in its economy. And whether India has suffered or not is irrelevant here. India suffers on a daily basis due to its population and growing constant population. So when you think you've got your head above water in India, suddenly the numbers go up and your head is below water again, and you're struggling to get back up again because of the numbers. So really, we are looking at creating funding structures here that can be invested into businesses that focus on jobs. Dr. Sekar, you said yourself that almost, not quite, but almost half the population of India are young, most under 25. Where are they going to go? What jobs are they going to achieve? What future do they see in front of them? Okay, we spoke about in the past about education. So we have very well educated people who qualify with their bachelor's or master's degrees or PhDs, etc. What do they do? Where do they go? Is there jobs out there for them? So I think, in my view, is that we need to look at our funding structures focusing on companies that apply employment, focus upon employment. We're not too, I wasn't going to say too interested, but rather that we're not particularly focusing on companies. We're not focusing on companies basically that have an interest or business structure that focuses only on technology that is run by computers and robots, basically. We need hands, employment. That's the most important thing. Now, agriculture was mentioned. Now, agriculture is very important for a few reasons here. Number one, there is a growing population. There are some countries that only grow enough food, but the majority of countries actually only grow enough food to support 40, 50 or 60% of the population. The rest is mainly imported foods. India requires more food now than ever before. We mentioned a great deal of land, which you brought up earlier. But there are new technologies now. I mean, we have the Vasily Group has developed technologies basically that with only 3 acres of different levels of 3 acres of hydroponics and that we've actually developed, we can create enough crops equal to 8,000 acres. 8,000 acres from such small numbers, which require no fertilizers, which require no pesticides, which require up to 95 to 98% less water than land farming. That provide crops 365 days a year, that have a 100-year lifespan of consistency of harvest on daily crops, no matter what the environment throws at them. So there are new technologies that we should be looking at, should be invested in. I'm just using at the moment agriculture because obviously it was brought up by you, was brought up by Her Excellency Lena as well. And I think it is extremely important. It does require hands. It does require to be implemented because food shortages are a real issue here. They are a real issue here. The fact that we are finding ourselves walking into supermarkets and seeing food on the shelves that does not actually realistically show what the real aspects of the food security is of India or other European countries. The reality is, if, for example, we had to hold back on imports, even if a 2-3 week delay, there will be a serious food security issue throughout India, a serious one. and in Europe as well. So I think it is a subject we need to be looking at, which we have brought up, not only because obviously we're trying to say this is the type of businesses we would fund or this is what we actually need, but to also emphasize that it is actually required and that we can fund such endeavors. We can actually fund that, whether in India or whether in Greece. And we can also fund other companies that bring technology and their experiences and their productivity into Greece to unite together, as long as those companies that unite with Greek companies, whether they are existing companies uniting into joint venture partnerships or whether they are startups, to us it's irrelevant, we can still fund it. But as long as they are creating employment, that's the most important thing. The aim and the foundation and the criteria behind our funding is that we must place funding into projects that help increase life chances, improve quality of life, create jobs, help reduce poverty, and create a social and socio-economic development. Now, yes, we find a lot of countries at the moment, governments as well as the private sector businesses on their knees at present. But my view is that's a very good place to start. It's much harder to start any form of union when you're flying very high and you're being very successful. There is too many fences and borders there which go under the title of ego quite often and wanting to corner your markets. So the position we find ourselves in, as you said earlier, and Leonard said earlier as well, is that we are in a very unique position now whereby we are having to relook how we communicate, how we do business. So this has actually been an advantage in that sense, because it's made us all look at ourselves, how we function. We have sat back and said, well, I can see where I have gone wrong, how I've been functioning. I now find there is a better way to actually do things. So in other words, it's created a thought process, which has realigned our thinking patterns and our own thought processes, as well as our direction and how we should be proceeding in business. You mentioned, and Her Excellency Lena mentioned as well, that the economies of these countries are very bad. Yours, ours, and most of Europe now is also facing that terrible burden. We have the funding. We can create the funding. We can put the structures together. As long as the businesses within India and in Greece and in Cyprus want to unite or start up and enter into the European markets and create employment. Employment is the key word here, employment. To create employment is very, very important for us, very important. You mentioned earlier as well regarding the importance of the growing population, how that's going to actually be taken care of. It's a very serious issue. If your population is growing, if I recall correctly, did you say almost 20 million a year?
20 million every year.
Every year. That's bigger than most Europe. There's so many European countries that fall under that population.
One Australia every year.
Yeah, there you go. So where are these people going to go? Where are these people? How is the food security going to be to accommodate that? How is, especially in a changing environment and climate change constantly. So yes, we need focus. We need to focus on the essentials. Essential is food security, water security, medicinal developments, basically. Controlling that as well. And also, obviously, technology. Technology is very important. And Lena is quite rightly saying, okay, we need the technology, we need the telecommunications, but they are not the priority here. They're important. They do still need development, but priority, I think, is water, food security, medicinal, sectors that create jobs. Sectors that create jobs. There's no point in sitting at home with your PhD whilst your children are asking for food and you have nothing to feed them with. So we need basically to look at creating jobs, creating food security, water security, and to create different ways to manufacture medicines and to have a wide availability of medicinal products that can service each community or each population of each country, basically. So we need to be looking at restructuring these aspects, and as well as the transportation, because okay, you've manufactured these things, you need to transport these things. Okay, you need technology as well to be added to make these fields to be much more effective. So what I'm trying to express here is that we are not purely concentrating on what I have just mentioned, but also concentrating on other businesses as well, but focusing on what's important at present to us. We're very willing to fund those projects. We need the collaboration of the person seeking the funding to work with us to be able to help them structure their financial needs, help them raise the funding they need. And we can do this on the basis that we can alleviate further financial burden. And what do I mean by that? Now, again, I'm going to jump back a bit and re-mention the economy in India, the economy in Greece and Cyprus and other European countries, and businesses which have suffered greatly in respect to a financial burden because of COVID. So there is no point in us applying funding and having large repayments and interest rates for them to pay back. So what we can do is that we can structure, and we have structured, funding platforms where businesses can be serviced by us in the form of funding, where we take a partnership in there, which basically removes the burden of repayments and interest rates, basically. So when a company wants to restart up, whether it's a new startup or go into mutual partnership with other companies to extend their business and not having a repayment to pay back or interest to pay back, but instead you allow the investors who have placed their funds into it in the form of partnership to hold some form of shareholding instead, is an open door to success, because you remove the burden of economic pressure to maintain a repayment system, which has to be largely based upon performance and sales. Because performance and sales in this current climate is not something which is very positive. So it allows the breathing space, the grace period for a company to establish itself, reset its foundations, reset its new markets, its new roadmap to enter into a European market in a very different way. So that's the structures we would like to move forward on, and basically find other people or other interested parties, including government authorities, basically, to enter into collaboration with us to assist the development of both nations.
Okay, I think that is a high amount of clarity and planning, and you didn't let us down by your knowledge of India and the facts which are growing around us. Of course, while talking of all this thing, before Lina comes, just one more small things about India which everybody should know. That with all the so-called problems because of historical reasons, because of circumstantial reasons, because of climatic reasons, the positive thing about India is, if you go to any Western country, especially USA, you would find that every successful CEO is an Indian and who has studied in India, who is not somebody who was born and brought up there. And that type of willingness today in USA, any company even having an Indian person on the board, the stock prices are up by 30%. Okay, so it is not to say with any degree of ego, but it is to say the sincerity and intellectual prowess of an Indian is at the highest level. Now, some of our topmost CEOs are there, and we found it strange to know that even China is in many companies they are preferring an Indian CEO. Which is very strange. Japan has started inroads of calling. So one more point which I wanted to highlight while digressing before Lina comes is that we also have the Indian himself is a product which is for export. Okay, it has to be thought of and understood properly. Here is a product which is an Indian and which can be tuned to whatever the others want. And he does not, involve, he or she does not get into anybody's negativity. You would find that with 25 million Indians, there are some crooks. We are not saying that, but very minuscule number. very minuscule number. Okay, and that too nothing very dangerous. Okay, and they have always contributed wherever they are. And here there are institutions which are ready to, make them better. Today, as you know, the vice president of USA, coming vice president, is an Indian. Okay, so and in UK, 5 of the senior most ministers are Indians, but they would all be belonging to that country. They would never say, I am India first and USA second. She would say, I am USA first, India second. All the ministers of UK would consider UK as the first preferred place. Then, but at the same time, they have enough respect, enough this thing, enough cultural connect, and enough of the devotional connect. So that is one of the aspects in which we have to see in what way the Indians themselves can be a more of an exportable commodity, by which, in my own philosophy, I have written one book on for overseas Indians, where I said that India should think of spending almost 2 to 3 million Indians abroad to take care of those 20 million people who are born every year, because it is good for all. People in that place are looking forward for various services which are probably difficult, which are probably where an Indian can do a better job without replacing the local person. That we have to triply ensure that. Second thing which you said, where I was really happy to know that your funding is not just by financial consideration. It has to a lot of employment capability. You should not just be making drones and robots only to replace humans. By that, you can make money only for few years. Then even the fellow who is making money will collapse because robo will, take over the owner also. A robo can replace the owner also if they can replace the employee. That many people should know. The robots and all are more for high-end this thing. Today, people are thinking of robots to replace everything. They want to replace all the servers in a hotel to a air hostess to a XYZ, any place, which is really not correct. Because if the money does not flow from human to human, the value addition will not come. How much time can, then machines can make everything, means nobody is going to get any salary, nobody is going to get anything. And if any of the industrialists think that by that they are going to be good, they will also be kicked out like many of the, things which are written. So that being the background, I thought it should also be considered as we go forward. Now, Leena, madam, you have a lot of things to put it on the ground, because we are saying Greece as a landing point, Greece as a gateway to Europe, and Greece as a starting point for a $1 trillion economy where Greece itself is suffering. So Greece itself can get into a very different dimension when things go well. And with your connect in Brussels, which is more of a capital of Europe, you have a significant role to say in this session and also to follow. Madam.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah.
So I would like to just mention a few more, let us say, practical or specific things on our way to develop this Indian-European corridor and relationship. So we mentioned agriculture. I will just say that there are 4 or 5 things that we can specifically describe in the relationship that we can have with Indian companies. So one thing is the food sector. And the food sector, Greece has actually small plots that belong to owners, but that does not mean that you cannot target quality food more than quantity food, because we do not have vast lands like you have in Ukraine or you have in the US, but we have good soil, and we can actually target quality food and things that in one of the jargons are called superfoods. That is something that we have here and you have also in India. So one sector that we can have relationship is this sector. The other sector is the agriculture in combination with hospitality and health. We have more than 300 thermal springs in Greece, each one for different cures. And this can be developed into something that can combine preventive or therapeutic reasons. And then you can also create things that comply with the specific needs that health needs in its sector. And there we can bring in holistic ideas of medicine that from the one side we have Ayurveda in India, and in Greece we have the Hippocratic, which are having similarities. And this also is something that we can develop here and then further in Europe, because this is what the world needs today. We found that also with COVID. People need to go back to the main important physical parameters of a human being. You cannot use chemicals all the time, and you cannot use pills that are chemical all the time and then wait to have a balanced and healthy life. You cannot. So if you just go closer to nature, and that we can introduce, you can have a healthier person. Then
Yes.
We have the pharmaceuticals that also we can bring in, and we can use the local production and the Indian ideas of getting things that are well known in Ayurveda, but should be adapted to the Western way of life. So that covers one big sector that goes from food to pharmaceuticals, and we can have partnerships on that between India and Greece and Cyprus, and create businesses that can go then their products into Europe, and also businesses, jobs, I wanted to say. But another sector that Sir Vasily has touched in the past, and we didn't talk about it now, is that Greece has, through their ship owners, the bigger fleet in commercial vessels in the world. And that could be supported by many other sectors, not many, but sectors that will support and be around this business. So we have steel industry, we can have products that have to do with services in the vessels, maintenance in the vessels, things that can even go to vessels that are, getting into shipyards, that can do all the kind of work that you do around shipping. All these things, both sectors that are big and they can create other peripheral works and jobs, can be financed and supported by the group that Sir Vasily said. One very interesting thing that he said, and that touches the distortion that we have in banking today, is that we need to look into a new way of finance. Basically and really, a banker should finance the production and make his money from the profit of the unit that he finances. And in the old traditions, interest was not accepted. So interest and the running of your share, that price of your share that banks are after today, are creating a distortion to the world of finance. So if we can introduce a new, but bringing back the real role of finance, where we finance something that we consider sustainable, and we make our profit from the profit of the production. Because this is a healthy way in supporting something that you finance, not just getting something out of collateral and getting interest, and then you don't care how the business is doing. You need to support the business so that the business is profitable, and through that you get also your own profit, because of course profit is not something that is damned. It's very necessary for any kind of business to have a profit, but it is the right way of having a profit. So these are the three things that I wanted to say more specifically. And I wanted to say also that our media group wants to support these ideas through Greece and also Europe, because we consider that this is something that needs support so that it will develop in a healthy way. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will, since she also talked about the I feel I have the, I thought I have the, I wanted to show the articles. Okay, I think it will take time since we are, so because I have few more things to tell based on whatever, I thought I would show the articles which had come last week. Okay. So the few points, of course, based on whatever is said, is about the finance and the way the returns should come, the way it should be there. There, I want to again highlight the word secure governance, about which we talked a few minutes back. In secured governance, it makes it secured for both lender and the company. Okay, what it does, it takes advantage of the third factor, which is the value addition, which none of the present structures of the banking takes care. Again, I repeat, when something is put in the initial planning itself, if I need X amount, I take little more than X what I require. Second thing, I put it for long-term, gain. Okay, if I need 50 acre of land and I'm putting up a small plastic factory or pharmaceutical factory, I first only take about 65 acres of land, just to tell you some crude numbers. Okay, this 15 acres is kept in such a way that as the factory keeps going bigger and bigger, the value around the factory will go 10 times, 100 times. And there you put ready-made complexes, so that the moment something is big, you and the funding agency become partner in that one. So the funding agency gets maybe 10 times more than what interest they would gain. And there'll be something which is like a collateral right from the day one, so that, there's no question of anybody, getting away. Even for some reason, the main company does not do well, even then these value additions, generally are good. So I'm just telling you in terms of only some land. It doesn't depend only on the land. Yeah, it depends on every aspect. When it's talking about human beings, if you have X human being bringing X value, you can have X plus something giving 10 times more value. So this is a way in which whatever we call as a hidden potential, so that, we do not want to see something, suppose that $1 trillion becomes a reality. At the same time, we have landed up with, 10 times more sick companies and sick units, then we are not doing long-term justice. We have to ensure whatever Sir Vasily is saying, which is excellent, which will be music to everybody's ear, that he likes to see that funding, along with employment, along with green, along with 100 years of sustenance, is something which we have to do. And as you all know, even secure governance, we are talking of 200 years of self-sustained growth, not in terms of 10 years and 20 years, which generally the bankers see. So that being the case, we will ensure, since we three are already working together on it, to see that this dream becomes a proper reality. Already many companies have shown very deep interest. It's a question of putting the dots together and starting it. And this is a concept, even if others can duplicate independently, we would only welcome. There's no competition. This is an idea which is good for all. It is not that $1 trillion has to come through us alone. But it is something which will succeed, which will be good for the countries, and especially for India, and as much for Europe, because this is not trying to take something from Europe and we grow. This is something by which Europeans also will grow. And Indian entrepreneurs have come to a different level, by which they are themselves entrepreneurs. As you know, many of the even Greek ship owners are Indians. They are there. So that, their entrepreneurship, their way of working with other countries have all matured out. So with that, if there is nothing else between the three of us, I will. Anything else you would like to add, Sir Vasily?
Um, Briefly, I would just like to mention on the point you made about India. Its best export is actually its people, because they have come from a country which has always had to think outside the box, and they still make a success despite all the obstacles around them, basically. So I think that is India's best export, basically, its people and its youth as well, and its experience in business. And lastly, I think I would touch on what Lena said regarding the shipping. Yes, I think that is a big aspect that needs to be attracted from India in unity with Greek companies. And lastly, the old method of banking is exactly what we are introducing now. No repayment, no interest, where we come in and we only get our funds replaced or returned to us in respect to the success of each individual project or company that we have put our money into. Other than that, I still emphasize that the best funding at the moment is based on businesses which create employment. That is vital for us to be looking at. That's it, really. Thank you, everyone.
Lina, madam, anything you would like to say before I conclude the day?
I don't think so, but I think that we cover basically most of the sectors. But that does not mean that if either a Greek business person or an Indian business person that has ideas that can, come into a partnership for us and for this into us and into this corridor through to Europe, this is of course welcome, and this is what we're looking here for.
Yes.
Ideas that are coming from the entrepreneurs and the younger people, and that we can support, and that we can also develop into this part of the world. And I think that this is an open invitation, and we will keep on working on that so that we will bring the one side close to the other for the benefit of both.
Thank you so much. So with that,
thank you.
Yeah. With that, I will conclude with only one statement. Yes, this $1 trillion is there to go forward, and we are only making a soft beginning. And already the reception we have is something extremely good. And it is best wishes to all of us, best wishes to India and Europe, and we would be there to see. Akram, you can formally conclude.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar. Thank you so much, Lina and Sir Vasily, for the wonderful and comprehensive discussion. And we wish to see actually an achieving $1 trillion Indo-Europe corridor that we are discussing here. And to all the business community, if you want to know more, then do kindly paste your comment in the comment box. We will definitely get a reply from our experts on this. Thank you.